Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover, and as always, you can follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on this show, two conferences could potentially be pairing up, how much of a loss this starting pitcher is, and how this sequel could live up to the first movie. And I want to start today with the starting rotation of the Atlanta Braves, as it's been really good, obviously. And they just got dealt a major blow last week with AJ Smith-Sauver blowing out his arm and needing UCL, blowing out his arm surgery, needing UCL surgery, also known as Tommy John. Not sure yet if it'll be the brace or if it'll be the full, or it'll be Tommy John. Still getting that looked at and checked out to figure out his best course of action. Big loss. Never thought coming to the season I would say AJ Smith-Sauver is a big loss because we didn't know what we were going to see from him in the bigs. We saw the potential. We saw the stuff. We liked the potential. We liked the stuff, but he hadn't put it all together. And that's just it. He was finally hitting his stride, figuring it out at the big league level with his stuff, knowing his stuff plays, his 96, 97, 98 plays, that splitter, that slider, it all plays. He has it. He's figuring it out. He's locating the baseball. And now at the big league level at age 22, it's gone. And it's tough. He'll be out to next June or later. June or July, we see him. Maybe even August of next year, which is tough. It basically means going into next season, you don't count on AJ Smith-Sauver at all to be a start in the starting rotation. You have your 5 starters, and then if you get them in August, great. Maybe someone goes down next year, or maybe nobody's doing so well. You put them in the pen if your starting rotation is going well, or however you want to do it. But that's obviously a long time from now. So basically, he's going to next. Like, you don't count on him. Whatever you get from him is gravy next year. If he can continue to refine himself and his stuff coming into next year, because he's gonna have to. He's finally figured it out, and he's gonna have to then almost not relearn it, but Tommy John always takes a while, even after you're back, to fully be back. Now, it's like, what are they missing out of? Like, what do they Braves miss out of AJ Smith-Sauver? And it's no-hit stuff. He can go out. He's your Braves 4 or 5 starter right now, or he was, and have no-hit stuff. He's a mid-rotation starter right now with huge upside. That's what he is, and then depth in the rotation. They were trying to figure out what to do and I kind of laid that out a few podcasts ago, when Spencer Strider come back. Because you got AJ Smith-Sauver throwing well. You got Bryce Elder, he was throwing well. And you got Grant Holmes throwing well. I thought with all the options of what to do with Grant Holmes, you can move him to the pin, keep him in the rotation, whatever. Smith-Sauver, young, high upside, throwing well. And then Bryce Elder, kind of who you got back in. He's that 4 or 5 starter, but solid 4 or 5 starter. 2 of his 3 years in the big leagues. And that's what he's been again this year. And Bryce Elder, a solid back-end starter that's going to give you 5 quality, keep you in the game, maybe hopefully gets you into that 6, 3 runs or less. On a good night, take it 7, which is fine. Middle of the back end 4 or 5 guy, you're going to take that all day. And that's what Bryce Elder is, and that's okay. But it wasn't the upside of AJ Smith-Shawver. And now, another chance for Bryce Elder to show he once again belongs in the big leagues. And it, quite frankly, puts a little bit of pressure on the staff as a whole. And speaking of pressure, I know he puts a lot on himself, and that's Spencer Strider's adjustments. We know he had 98 to 100 with the heater. Well, now he's 94, 95, maybe 96, And that's a big difference. He didn't have to be as fine with his command at 98 to 100. 94 to 95, he does. He could miss middle with 98 to 100 and get away with it. You miss 94, 95, middle, you're going to get hit hard. And that's what happened to Strider. I mean, 94, 95 is plenty good to get hitters out. He just got to be a little bit better with his command. And it's like the thing with guys that have had 98 to 100. When they've gotten older in their career, they might have 94, 95 now and learning to pitch a little bit more, hitting with their command. And maybe it's a transition was a little bit later in their careers, and it's looking like it might be a little bit earlier in Spencer Strider's career where he's sitting 94, 95, but has to hit his command. Now, think about if he does get 98 to 100 back, coming back from this internal brace, but he's learned to hit his command with 94, 95. If he's able to do the exact same thing, 98 to 100, that's absolutely dangerous if he's able to start hitting 94, 95, but then maybe 98 to 100 doesn't come back this year. Maybe it comes back next year, but if he can have that same control, 98 to 100, as he potentially can get 94 to 95, that's what he's going to have to be successful. Watch out. Very dangerous. Now, he just needs to get right. Braves have to have him. Have to have him, obviously, for this year, because we know how this year's going right now. Not as expected, kind of a spiral and a nosedive. Still a lot of season left. I'm not writing them off yet, but they're in a big hole right now. And they've got a lot to climb out. I'm not writing anything off yet. A lot to climb out of. But there's a lot to climb out of. So, and Spencer Strider has to be a part of that to help them get out of this hole. Yeah, it's not a good spot to be, but there's still time. Now, speaking of time, I think there's some time to let this kind of play out. And I don't see this happening in the immediate future. Maybe after the playoffs are set, and by set I mean, is it 12? Fingers crossed it stays. Probably not. If it ruins college football anymore and goes to 16 or not, what the SEC and the Big Ten are going to do scheduling wise. It's been talked about before. Brian Kelly was talking about this at down in Destin, and it's been thrown around by the SEC and Big Ten scheduling, scheduling together, as in pairing teams up as a SEC Big Ten challenge, kind of like they do in basketball. I've long been a fan and support of this agreement if they did a non-conference game. Also, some talk. SEC would have to go to a 9-game schedule in order for them to do that. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I've talked about the SEC going to 9 games. But if the SEC Big Ten schedule were to come about, I think there's like almost 3 ways, to do this. Rotating teams, just like the SEC schedule, like a 2-year deal where it's home and home with X schools. So, last year the SEC played this exact same schedule that we'll be playing this year, but you're just flopping home and road. Or you could do, random draws, like the 2 year, like I was saying, 2 years. It's Georgia, Oregon 1 year, then Georgia Northwestern. And like on that realm, projected, or you could, another thing you could do is try to project teams of like quality and give you quality matchups. So it'd be equal levels of rotating a home and away each season. So say next year it's Tennessee, Washington in Washington. Then next year it's Tennessee versus Southern Cal. Southern Cal coming to Knoxville. That means Southern Cal would have a home game against, just to say, Florida or whatever. You could do that way of rotating home and away regardless of the year for that team. So that's an option as well. Or you could have one-off games in neutral site stadiums. Your candidates, Atlanta, Indy, Dallas, the Rose Bowl, Houston, Tampa, etc. I think it'd be cool. Get creative and play some games in NFL stadiums, like a Northwestern in Soldier Field against, I don't know, Florida, LSU, whatever, that sort of thing. A neutral site stadium, kind of like what teams have done before. It's both teams split the revenue evenly. But there's a lot of options. I think the best options is just going to be like the random rotation for teams, where 1 year you end up with Ohio State, the next year you might end up with a Purdue, because I think the SEC plays a little bit tougher schedule, their interconference schedule, than the Big Ten, first conference wise. But my whole thing with that is these top teams, I think, don't really want to be facing each other out of conference, knowing now that there's a higher chance to see them again in the playoffs, especially in the expanded area, especially with, we're probably sadly going to 16 teams. If I'm Georgia or Alabama, and why do I want to play Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon or Washington in their regular season, when there could be a pretty good chance in a 16-team playoff that I see them again, potentially. Especially if it's 4 automatic bids. If we're going that route, I mean, that basically means Ohio State every year, Oregon every year, probably Michigan, and then maybe that 4th spot. Is it a UCLA once in a while? Maybe if USC can get their act together. Is it a Nebraska that can maybe get together? Is it a surprise team in a Michigan State or an Indiana like last year? You know, if you play Indiana regular season, all right, so what? Who cares? But like, say those top 4 are those top 3 right there. And then if you do with the automatic qualifiers, you know, your 11 automatic qualifiers, who knows how many SEC, Big Ten teams get in that can potentially see each other multiple times. I think another thing is why this won't happen soon because the inconsistency of the selection committee and what they're looking at for any given year. Does strength of schedule matter? Is it who you beat, or is it who I don't lose to? You know, that's kind of been like a thing all over of year to year, the inconsistency to year based on who's on the selection committee and the teams that are fighting for those spots all the way around. So it's not a good system for the playoff committee to toss and turn because that affects scheduling of teams of why do I want to schedule Ohio State? Huh? When it doesn't matter who I beat, it just matters what my win-loss record is in the case of, say, like in Indiana last year, you know. Yeah, they played their schedule. That you know, they beat who's on the schedule. They did what they were supposed to, you know. But why make it tougher for ourselves if it only matters about wins and losses, not who we've actually beat? Now, I would love to see this happen. A sequel as good as Top Gun Maverick. I think there's some potential for there to be a movie like that because not many sequels are very good. And most of the ones that aren't good are done closely after each other. Top Gun Maverick was one of the few, to me, really good sequels. Gladiator 2 is okay. Outside of that, there hasn't been a good sequel. And I mean, yeah, your ocean movies were okay. Your Bourne movies were really good. But those are different. Those are kind of like a series. Well, obviously the Bourne movies were a series. Ocean movies were okay. There wasn't really there were obviously some overlapping characters and some storyline, but if you saw them separate, you're fine. Whereas like the Bourne movies, obviously you have to like follow. The Batman movies, once again, it's a series. I'm talking about the Christian Bale series with, you know, Dark Knight, Batman Begins, and one with Bane. Is it Batman Returns, maybe? I forgot the name of that one. But like that series, that's a little bit different. A movie I would love to see in a sequel is Rounders 2. Rounders made 98. First movie was so good. Matt Damon, with Ben Affleck, with Eddie Norton. And Matt Damon has said he would like to do Rounders 2. Eddie Norton, he even had a conversation with him, said he'd be down for Rounders 2. And that would be, I think, a great sequel because of the time span, the time lapse between 98 and, say, if it's made in 2027, 2028. I mean, obviously that big gap's huge and there's a bunch of different directions they can go. I mean, at the time, Matt Damon was trying to go become a poker player. You can go that direction of him being a successful poker player and then him getting in some trouble somehow. You could go the direction of him stalling out as a poker player, getting in some trouble, and he's working his way back. Or maybe he just ends up never going to Vegas and tries to, on his way to Vegas, all these different, side games that he stumbles upon or whatever. He gets a lead for, whatever may be the case. But there's a bunch of different options and a bunch of different directions they could go with that I think he's interested. He wants to do it. Why not? And I mean, shoot. Him and Ben Affleck, they've got a production company. They could just do it and make it themselves. They have to get Eddie Norton involved, but what's the holdup here? Make a movie. I think it would do very well. And it'd be a fun movie too. Matt Damon, get on that. You want it. I think people would thoroughly enjoy it. I'm Locke Hoover. You can follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. Talk to you next week.